Okay, let's try these three problems. So this week we went over limits, and I'm going to give you three additional examples so that we make sure that we really understand them. So to start off with the first one, we're going to take the limit as x goes to 4 of x to the minus 1 half plus 2x. Okay, so the first thing that we want to make sure that we do is we try to plug in this 4 into the x. So what I'm going to get, I'm going to plug in wherever I see an x, I'm going to plug in this 4. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 4 in here, plug in 4 here, and I'm going to plug in 4 there. Okay, and what I'm going to get, well, this negative just tells me that I'm going to bring this down. So this is going to be 1 over 4 to the 1 half. This is just going to give me plus 8. Okay, remember that to the 1 half power, it also means the square root. So it's going to be 1 square root of 4 plus 8. This is going to give me 1 half plus 8. Okay, at this point, I can either use my calculator or I can just find the least common denominator between the two. In this case, it will be a 2. This stays the same. The way that I can rewrite 8 into a fraction, well, I know that this has to be a 2. If I multiply that by 2, this will be 16. And notice that 16 divided by 2 will give me 8. So the answer will be 17 over 2. This will be the limit. The limit is 17 halves. Okay? All right, now for this one, notice that we have a quadratic, and when we have quadratics, we want to be able to factor them. Precisely what we should be make sure is that when we plug in this 8, notice that in the bottom, I'll have 8 minus 8, which gives me 0, so I'll have an undefined term. So that's not quite what I want. So first I'm going to go ahead and plug in 8, and then see if it works. Clearly, this is not going to work. Because you'll have 8 minus 8 on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor instead. So I'm going to limit as x goes to 8. I'm going to factor the top portion. So think of two numbers that multiply to get negative 24 and also add up to get negative 5. Well, in this case, it would be 8 and 3. And in order for this to get negative 5, I have to make sure that this is a minus 8 and this is a plus 3. Okay, then I'm going to divide it by x minus 8. Then notice that the x minus 8s are going to go away. So now I'm going to have limit as x goes to 8 of x plus 3. And then the last thing to do is just take the 8 and plug it in. So see that this is actually going to work. So 8 plus 3 is going to be 11. Okay, so now we're going to do the last one. The last one's a little bit more involved. What I notice is that I do have a square on top and I also have a radical. If I were to plug in the 4 into both of them, I'm going to have 4 squared minus 16 divided by square root of 4 minus 2. Well, on top I'm going to have 16 minus 16, and on the bottom I'm going to have 2 minus 2. It's going to give me 0 over 0. And remember that this is indeterminate. Okay? Indeterminate, so we cannot do it. So we have to think of something else. Well, one thing that we can do is multiply by the conjugate. Okay, so multiplying by the conjugate means that I'm going to have to rationalize this to get rid of the square roots. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by the conjugate of this. This is going to be square root of x plus 2 square root of x plus 2. Okay, so what is this going to give me? This is going to give me limit as x goes to 4 of x squared minus 16. So don't do anything on the top one. Just work with the bottom portion. Okay, and then bottom I'm going to have square root of x minus 2 square root of x plus 2. Okay, so this is going to give me limit as x goes to 4. I'm going to leave the top one by itself. I don't want to go ahead and mess around with that. And I'm going to work with the bottom portion. So I'm going to have square root of x times square root of x. That's just going to give me x. Square root of x plus 2x, plus 2 is going to give me plus 2 square root of x. Minus 2 times square root of x is going to give me minus 2 square root of x. Minus 2 plus 2 is going to give me minus 4. Okay, and what you notice is that these two are going to go away. So I'm going to have the limit as x goes to 4. Okay, the top one, I'm not going to worry about that right now. Square root of x plus 2 divided by x minus 4. Now, we came to another issue because Notice that now, even if I plug in the 4, I'm still going to have a 0 on the bottom. But notice or remember that you also have a quadratic on the top. And whenever you have a quadratic, try to factor it as well. So what will be the factored form of that? Well, I can just say this is going to be equal to the limit as x goes to 4. I can factor this as x minus 4, x plus 4, and then I have this extra square root of x plus 2, and then I have this x minus 4. Okay, and notice now that the x minus 4s are now going to cancel out, and I'm left with limit as x goes to 4. So I have x plus 4, and then I have square root of x plus 2. Okay, now I can plug in the 4. So the 4 is going to go wherever I see an x. So I'm going to have 4 plus 4, and I'm going to have square root of 4 plus 2. Okay, 4 plus 4 gives me 8. Square root of 4 gives me 2. 2 plus 2 is going to give me 4. So my answer is going to be 32. So the limit in this case is 32. So this one was much more involved. So just watch the video, and if you have questions, you can tell me in class.